Oh, okay.
They began to argue about it. All right, high schoolers, adios. I'll see you in the next, like.
Wait, plural or singular?
Oh, I guess it's just you.
Didn't bring anyone with you?
I guess Judah was here for like all of 15 seconds, and so it kind of threw me off.
That's starting yet.
Yeah, that's actually 11 weeks. That's literally the start time.
Emma, you're supposed to help.
Hey, Jean, do not panic. Talk to your
Help
parents.
set up chairs
We are right
before I
here.
leave.
You might, but you would have had to do it before 11.
Well, like, can I do it right now?
But now it's 11, so
Like, I'm trying to be helpful.
you are, but you're also not. You're also trying to just find ways to stay up here.
But also not. Okay, bye. We love you. Goodbye.
Well, how you doing?
You got real big feelings right now. But here's the deal. Cleanup doesn't take that much longer without Emma.
I have it.
Because
Look at
Emma
this.
is
I
up
got
very
you
fast.
right here.
You're gonna get done in just the same amount of time, with or without her help. Okay? So if you cry, if she fails to help you. Is it helping you clean faster to cry? No. Just asking for help from Daddy. That would do the trick. In the future, maybe don't make such a big mess right before class. So that you don't have as much to clean up right before class. Do you recall which bag goes to which set of things?
No, they're all in the same bag.
All in the same
So,
bag.
I just laughed because it was so
Where's
late. I just laughed because it was super
My mom's in
late.
that age.
Even if we were going to do a race or not, you would win.
I have more experience. My arms are longer. It helps.
It's colors of my hair.
Look how tall the stack is.
Exactly.
Amazing.
You have like
I don't know how he's managed to keep them all in his bag. That seems incredible to me.
They were quite sweet.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be like Rogue.
Squish them in.
Streak of gold. Like, they moved white through my hair.
My mom actually had that. She literally went gray.
One streak, yeah.
One
Is there a chance that we have tape?
No.
Yeah.
What do you need tape for?
You asked the most interesting question.
Okay. I guess
So,
no, he's trying to
I'll
go
put tape on my phone and then write Alex and then
Second
Daniel
chair,
does
okay.
mixed up.
Oh, where's your tape over here?
And there's also some other chairs.
Maybe there's not. Perfect.
All right.
Alright, hand me the.
What are things? What are words?
My blonde.
Not just math.
He's a whole spelling one. Where is your actual water?
It's at home. As is yours. Good morning.
Both of
He needed an escort to ask him all the questions.
Aiden, you're gonna start being disciplined for this action.
Oh, God.
Here, yeah, now you can't get it up.
This taking here first.
He needed an escort.
Go.
Also, is there, what about like later today?
I don't think so. Probably not.
Oh, my goodness. All the other middle schoolers, grab a chair.
I know, I wouldn't, I would like.
Not just the two new guys. Also, you guys should introduce yourselves to the two new guys.
Hello.
Excuse me.
Hi.
That's a C plus right there. That introduction was just so far from good and perfect.
Oh, no?
I normally get C's in school.
You're happy with this? Wait, you didn't introduce yourself at all. You have an F currently.
No, I kinda did it in the beginning.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I believe you.
What?
I kind of coughed it.
I said hey.
You coughed? That's like an F. That's terrible.
I said hi.
Coughed it. I coughed it out.
How you doing? You didn't answer. That's not my fault.
Can we play Tilted Towers now?
It's only 5 minutes in. Yeah, I think we have time.
Woohoo!
It's such a small group.
It's because it's like still on time-ish right now. And
Oh.
like a lot of you have been coming
What is
late.
going on with this? Two more
I'm just always early.
Yeah, Hannah, I don't think they've taken geometry class.
But I've played
I'm
Geometry
homeschooled.
Dash.
Yeah, clearly you're losing at geometry dash. Look at the geometry of your chair line. Just imagine that as a geometrical figure. Just try. I dare you.
Are you okay? Fixed it. No, it's not better.
I was trying to see what this said.
You should get TrueScape. What's happening? Do you have a game? What's it called? TrueScape. You don't need. I don't know. Alan, come. Play with me.
I will play with you.
It might be fun.
There's a controller.
This is like funner
I
than.
have all the controllers!
Why is this
What
game?
about
why is this
Micah's
game better
controller?
than
Oh,
Fortnite?
did Micah get one early?
Yeah.
That's why my fork won't connect. Okay, cool.
This game is like better than Fortnite.
It actually is so much fun.
I'll give you two.
You know what we haven't played in a long time? That weird one is like Tetris with
Puyo?
yeah.
Yeah. That one's been a while.
Someone clicked off.
Oh, I'm fourth player. Merry Christmas, Mom.
Aiden.
I'm
Go to class!
It's not my choice. What do you mean it's not your choice? You walked up here, it's your choice. You choose what you're like.
Yeah, he did bring me my key back.
Okay.
No.
I'm actually winning.
You know what? You do one wrong thing,
I know, right?
and then it messes it all up.
I know. It sucks. Like oh, never mind.
This game sucks. I need a restart. Michael, you're actually good at this game. You're like, I'm just that good.
Yeah.
Really get down.
The key is balancing him. Big time, that's bigger than big. Micah,
Now I'm in third.
you are honestly probably the
Okay, beat.
your mom. No!
I'm tired.
When I get old enough, I'm gonna sell my kidney.
That's good.
I don't know about you, but that feels really out of the blue. Did you have a reason to say that?
You could live life with only one kidney, and the lowest that you can sell your kidneys for is 1,600. I mean, whatever. Like around.
My tower is
It's like a lot of money. So I could set for like what?
What? I was doing so good for the first part of the I was like, that looks like a Daniel strategy.
I don't know what
And
you're
then
talking
I'm like,
about.
wait,
Was
Daniel's not
it
playing. Where is he?
That was like the AI or something.
Daniel.
Daniel owns the game, so he's kidding.
I own the game. I owned the game. Thank you very much.
So that means it's an automatic cheat.
Hey, Daniel.
So then he should never win. Because we'll
You
just
win,
say
he's
he's
cheating.
cheating.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Good to see, man. Excuse me. Sorry. Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry.
No! Oh, I was doing so good.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Sorry.
I love how you just walk through and say that.
Yeah.
That's my dad. Every time.
The way you walk around.
Nah, there's no opening in the next seat. The gap's too small. I'd have to like hoist the chairs up in the air. I might hit the new guy in the head. Pretty bad. Right, Rio? I shouldn't hit people with chairs.
No, that's what
Carter
you've done to all of us.
Carter wants to.
No, that's what you've done to all of us.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never hit you with a chair.
Well,
When did I hit you with a chair?
Literally last Sunday.
No.
Yes.
No, that was you're thinking of that dream you had about WWF.
No,
Yeah. Yeah, you're thinking about that dream.
What? What?
Mike, are you off your group?
Oh!
Who's in second?
You're off your group. Why would you do that?
No!
Oh, why would you do that?
Okay. I'm fine.
Michael,
Dude.
who's for you?
I'm this one, the one with the Spider-Man, the spiders and
Halloween
the
one?
pumpkins, the Halloween film.
What's your turn?
Halloween.
Yep, he's third.
Could I?
I don't get it. Four.
This is so
I went from first to fourth.
No!
Oh, it's bad.
This is actually
No!
working.
Okay, so
Okay.
who's second? Who's playing second place? What player? That was him? Okay. I can't speak.
Yeah.
Life be good for me.
Oh no. That one? How did you do that? That is insane. I have never seen a victory like that before. That was nuts.
Already went? How?
Alright. Alright guys, if you've played twice, hand off your controller to someone.
I have played twice.
Most of you have played twice.
I need water anyways.
You didn't deserve it.
Yeah. But that was like half and half.
I need to teach you.
You gotta teach Carter. Whoa, go back. You got player X'd out. Go back. Stop hitting directions, you bunch of monkeys. Go hit B. Okay, someone's not in. There we go. Okay.
I'm in.
Make sure everyone's all golden. No, stop hitting that. Hit B. Make sure everyone's all golden before you hit A. See how the colors are all red and white? Okay, wait till they all turn gold.
You did?
Just gotta go slow.
Yeah, wait, Carter, are you
Just gotta be patient. Do it.
Two of you were doing. Who are you?
Whoever's
I'm the
third
one
player,
who's not gold.
get your thing all set up today. And then you guys want the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
option to be race, second one to be normal, third one to be tiny. You're good. There you go. Boom.
Okay, now Carter, how do I play?
Now the hard part's done. You just gotta knock over your tower.
No, you're already failing, Carter. No, don't do that. Okay.
If you hold down, it goes down fast.
No.
You can also use the D-pad. It's a lot more accurate for this game.
What? Why would you do that? This is a game with physics. What do I hold
And like
down?
A is rotate if you don't like your
Carter is
mistakes.
already. A is rotate. What do I do to make it go down?
Hold down on the directional.
Oh, look at mine. Oh my gosh, Carter. You're not showing this. Oh. I can do it. No, Carter, if you
Yeah, the person who's second player is gonna try like natural selection as the way to do it.
Hey, no, why did I get such a big
Alright, so sometimes you get power-ups floating over your dude.
or sorry, B is always the offensive power up. It like does something bad to everybody else. And X is always the help power up. It helps you with something. So right now you've got vines. Vines will lock together the piece you're dropping with whatever it touches first. And B is bushes. It hides your teammate, your opponent's.
I'm in second place.
bushes.
No, I'm in.
How do I get this?
B is offensive. X is defensive.
I can't with the words.
Yeah, Carter, this is why you should have listened to me.
I kind of messed up. How do I get
What is that?
Oh.
Press X with vines. Okay, yeah. I mean, you're still gonna. Sorry.
The right piece.
Is that? You're bad at this game. Whoa! You're bad at this game. Push B. Hey, you push B. Wait, no, not you. The other one. Who wants to play?
Somebody press me.
Somebody press B because you have a power up. Yeah, there we go. Oh no, I had a power up. No way.
The way that you play Tetris actually. I tripped down.
Isn't it? Oh, why am I so bad at this? Based on
Yes.
it's working. Yeah, some people, some of the people that are in first are usually. Oh, I had a power up.
Bro, why are you playing?
No, you're not. Bro, I'm winning. I'm in fourth place. Side. Who's in first? No, you.
Oh my god.
Why did you press that one, Carter?
Kill it. You actually want to make. You want to.
Wait, that one. You got it. You no, I'm doing good. Wait. No, I fell. Wait, who's that one? Who's the middle left one? Press X. Press X or B. Because you got a power. Good. Use the power up. Well, you lost your use of power. Good job.
When I started,
That huge block. You couldn't have done it without that block. Suck.
even though you keep on winning,
You still suck. Someone give me the controller now. You.
I just spawned.
Ain't no way I already messed up. No way I already messed up. I'm in first place.
I'm in first now.
You suck.
No.
Bro, I'm actually doing good. I'm in third.
I'm in first now.
I hate this game.
Well, then why are you playing?
Brett.
Game, your turn. Dude. Oh, thank you. Thank you, dude. Thank you, bro. Okay, let's go. Oh, dude, I don't know that.
You just made it work.
What?
So bad at this game.
Wait, why would I play?
Because you'd be better at this game.
I don't think that's how that works.
No, hey, yeah.
The whole thing is shaking.
That's your go. Let's go. No. Let's go.
Has anyone not played? Mike's already played.
I play, but I don't want to play again. Or I don't want to play at all.
You don't want to play at all. Guys, stop hitting the X button.
Always on Sunday.
No way, I already messed up again.
How do you keep messing
What the
up?
game does to you.
Stop hitting X!
Bro, who's hitting X? It's sabotage. Who's hitting X?
I don't know.
Micah, is it you?
No, it's not.
I think that's fine.
I promise. If anyone promises, it's me. I promise.
Bro, who keeps
Oh
doing
my
that?
gosh, he was doing this.
It's not me.
Start non-players. Start watching him. Let's see.
It's not Micah.
Let's see. Is someone just got like greasy fingers they're slipping over?
Bro, no way. I'm actually not in terrible place right now.
Oh, that's
I
not
hate
good.
this
That's not good. That's not good.
Bro.
Dude, are you the Christmas one?
For me?
No, he's complaining because I feel like the Christmas one just had a bad explosion.
I'm the Christmas one though.
Oh, that was a
We're
bad
both the
explosion.
same Christmas.
Oh, you guys both- oh, yeah, you're right. You're both Christmas. My bad.
Bro.
Oh, no way I'm in first place. No way I'm in first place. Yeah. Oh, just got it.
Dude, if it's the right timing, sometimes the jumbo block is like actually.
Yeah.
Use vines. Use vines. Oh. No way. No way.
Bro, what are you doing?
Dude,
Guys, stop! I almost flipped! Guys!
That is not me.
I swear it's Micah.
I was about to place the ball in the right place. It's not me. It can't be me. It's not. I'm literally so focused on this game. I don't even know what I'm pressing to do.
Yeah, we all know it's you.
I was gonna say it's gotta be Rio.
It's not me. If I win this,
That was a pretty bad excuse.
it can't be me.
It can't be because I said so.
Yeah, it's not me.
If I win
It's
this.
entirely possible.
No!
He's smashing right so hard. His thumb tip is reaching over. Dude, player 3, how did you manage that? How did you get it to stick? Right there.
I'm at first. No way.
Player 3, what have you done? You've turned it into a double ramp. It's like a roof now.
I hate this game.
You're never
I'm
getting
so
that to stack.
Bro, I'm
Player
actually
2,
not
you've
doing
got a
terrible
great
this
power
game.
up with X, but you gotta know where to stick it.
Bro.
Come on now. Come on now. Let's go.
Use X.
Sorry,
Player 3,
guys.
use X.
What's X?
The blue X, there you go. You got this magic special piece coming up next, and it's gonna yeah, there it is. See that? Don't stack on the right side, it's a slope. You gotta stack on the green side with like a cube or something that's 2 blocks wide. And you don't even have to worry about the tower anymore. You just stack from there.
Here. No way, I'm not way.
There it is,
No
man.
way.
There it is. You got it. You got it. Yeah, that's it right there. That's it right there.
No way.
That was such a good comeback.
He was cheating, bro. He was pressing X.
I was not push it down, push it down, push it down.
Yeah, we're in slow mo here. You gotta hold down. Beautiful. Just
I was gonna win. I so hard.
And as a matter of fact, player 3 gets it. Good job, player 3.
Let's go.
Alright guys, that is it for game time. Go ahead and grab yourself the Bible off the shelf.
Yeah, do not put your, stop pushing me. Stop.
Alright guys, right over here is the shelf for the controllers.
Stop
Right over
pressing
there is
me.
the shelf for the Bibles. Make
We're
a
gonna
swap.
play again.
If you don't have a Bible, get a Bible. If you do have a controller, drop off your controller.
My controller's dead.
Yeah, I know, I switched it off.
Oh, okay.
I have the power.
No, you don't have any power.
I want it.
Yeah, give it to everyone. Why?
It's a feature, okay?
You gonna kill you?
It's a feature.
If you guys don't have chairs, we do have more chairs up on the stage.
You're just like, no, I don't really care.
Anything.
Alrighty, guys, open up your Bibles to 1 Chronicles chapter 10. Before we get started, did anybody finish up the challenge and count the names in 2 through 9?
I
got busy with my brother's birthday.
No one went for it, huh?
I would have. We just have to like get our whole house ready.
I think I was right. I think I was right.
You were wrong, Micah. I love you, but you were wrong.
No.
No, that's not possible. Yeah, but it is. But it is.
Or maybe you just got it wrong, Daniel.
Oh, that's possible. That's possible. I double checked my work last night. There was slightly less than I thought.
Why?
But not a lot less. Just distance. She is a bit less than I thought.
You have no idea how deeply I consider looking up the answer.
I don't think anyone's ever done the work.
Wait, is it on Google? Because I have so many photos in my
All right. Let's see. How many
Do it by chapter.
names
I was in 14 in that
are in First
I'm not wrong.
Chronicles
No, it doesn't.
2?
I asked him.
No.
I deeply consider.
I went to Google, but I just asked him not.
Yeah. No one bothers me. There's just too many.
Then why not you do it, Daniel? Put it online.
I should post it up. Hey, look it. I'm live streaming this, and I'm gonna reveal the answer.
Go crazy, yeah.
Whoa.
Tell me if I was at least close.
If you guys want at the end, I'll tell you the answer. But if you want one more week to try and count them up, I'll give you one more week. I just don't
Alright,
know.
give me one.
I don't know if I trust you that you're actually gonna do it. That's the problem.
I just forget.
You just forget.
And then
So I
blame
should
it
just
on my brother's birthday.
call you midweek and be like,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I need.
count the names.
That's what I need.
Okay. What's up?
The phone bucket.
Oh, phone bucket.
You should
You
know.
guys have not put your
Daniel,
phone in the
I
phone
bet it's
bucket.
over
Now's your
1,000.
chance
I bet it's over
for a
1,000.
wonderful candy prize at the end of the day. It also helps you to not be distracted.
Don't do
It's
it.
kind of the heart and soul of it.
Don't
Micah.
do
More
it.
of a chance of me winning.
Micah,
Don't do
your
it.
phone's right there.
Don't do it. You do it.
Someone done you dirty.
Oh. Wow, guys.
You watched me do it and then start smiling.
Yeah, I never saw you do that.
He was
I took it out of the bucket. I
He was-
looked at
he was
you
in a
like this
daze.
and then sat it right there. And then
I
you
don't
smiled.
remember
he was
that.
experiencing a memory from childhood. He wasn't paying attention at all.
That scene was like.
He was just sitting there going,
I think that's
You bleed
It's all
out.
good.
that actually happens.
Half my house was.
Yeah, and actually, and I smile too. My normal face
A
is
wave
smile.
of nostalgia just washes over him.
Honestly, I
People walk in. My brother walks into.
Alright guys, we got a lot to cover today. We're going to try and breeze through 3 chapters fast as we can. I'll back up a little. Poor Micah here can't see the screen. Alright, so, some of you guys are new. Some of you are just new enough, like you haven't been here last week or the week before. You missed the opening of Chronicles. We are starting off in chapter 10 today, but we've only been in Chronicles for 2 weeks. Week 1, we did 1 chapter. Week 2, we did 8 more chapters. Today, we're doing 3 chapters. So we're moving at a crazy, weird pace. And this is why. Chronicles is a book we're picking up after having read through 1 Samuel, instead of reading 2 Samuel. And what 1 Chronicles does in its first 9 chapters is catch you up. It literally starts back at the beginning of Genesis and catches you up at lightning pace, whoosh, all the way up to here. But what it doesn't do at lightning pace is it also gives you the entire family tree of the entire country up to that point. Now the country doesn't really get its start until down here at the end of Genesis. Okay, that's where the country really gets its start, at the end of Genesis. But from the end of Genesis all the way up to here, the family tree grows massively, because you can see the timeline down here. This is thousands of years. So hundreds of years. Hundreds of years go by. and the family grows massively. And so by this point, we've got 12 main family branches. They each have their own tribal lands. They've all spread out. And eventually we get towards the king. So back in those last chapters, 2 through 9, they cover the family tree on Saul's side. He was the first king. And then David's side, he's the second king. And this is all being written way after the fact. This is written around 450 BC. This is out here at the end of the timeline, at least as far as this timeline goes. This book is being written. So it's like a history book. 1st and 2nd Samuel were much more like journals. They were written right around the time the events happened. 1st and 2nd Chronicles are written way after the fact, looking back on those same exact events. Yeah?
So wait, we get another week?
If you want. If you're going to do it, I'll give you another week. Otherwise, I just want to tell you the answer and get done with it. You should
No
be
one
finished.
does it. It's been a month now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Psalms the longest book in the Bible?
Yes, in several ways. It has the most chapters. It has the most words. It has the most pages. It was also written by the most authors.
Dun dun dun.
If you guys don't know Psalms is basically like every chapter is a different song. And so it's 150 different songs. Each one has its own author. Now, some people like David and Solomon, they actually wrote like a ton of them. But there's Psalms in there from like Moses, and Moses has like one to his credit. So there's like one from Moses. There's a lot of those like that, where there's like just one from one guy, and it's the only one he ever wrote. And then there's others like, David and Solomon, where they just write a bunch of them. All right, so we are jumping into chapters 10 through 12, and this is going to finally catch us back up to where we were at the end of 1 Samuel. And from that point on, next week, continuing forward, we're going to just keep on moving through Israel's history, now with David on the throne. Do you guys remember how 1 Samuel ended? What the last moment in 1 Samuel was? It was the death of Saul. We didn't actually see David take the throne. We just saw the first king die. The second king is still waiting in the wings. He hasn't actually ascended to the throne yet. He's not been crowned. He's been anointed. He's been chosen, but like not actually in charge yet. Yeah.
Saul died.
Yeah. Good answer. Wow. This kid.
I had my hand up before you moved the slide.
Okay. Sorry. So I didn't see any hands, so I just went for it. All right. So here you go. This is the end of 1 Samuel 31. And this is 1 Chronicles 10, the first chapter we're looking at today. Do you guys notice anything?
I can see that.
I see words.
Yeah. Oh, so they look like they're exactly the
I see
same.
black.
They're super close. They're so close, in fact,
I see
that it's
bus.
pretty clear what happened here. The authors of Chronicles just read Samuel. Now, they're not identical. There are some slight differences. You can notice here at the end, it's slightly different. It says, then they took their bones and buried them beneath the tamarisk tree at Jabesh, and they fasted for 7 days. Then they buried their bones beneath the great tree of Jabesh, and they fasted for 7 days. So you get to this point in history, that tree's dead. They don't bother writing down what kind of tree it is. Because this is hundreds of years later, you can't go visit the tree anymore. So they just leave out the breed of tree. They don't care. You're never going to go find it. But when they wrote Samuel, like, the tree was there. This was only a few years after they got buried. So there is another difference, though, and that's that 1 Samuel just kind of ends there. Chronicles keeps going. So check out this part. 1 Chronicles chapter 10. This is right after the part that's identical. It says this. So Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. He failed to obey the Lord's command, and he even consulted a medium instead of asking the Lord for guidance. So the Lord killed him and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse. This wrap-up right here is kind of like what a pastor would do or a teacher would do. They're explaining something to you. It's not a series of what actually occurred. It's why. And in Samuel, there's not a bunch of that. Mostly in Samuel, it's just like this happened, then that happened. This guy did this, then that guy said that, then this guy did this. In Chronicles, we're going to see a lot more of this. Things happen, and then the writer comes back and says, and here's why, or here's how, or here's what was in that person's heart, or here's why the Lord decided what he decided. We're going to see a ton of that in Chronicles. It's why I jumped, instead of doing 2 Samuel, and did 1 Chronicles instead. I like these notes. I like what they add to the story. So we see why God abandoned Saul. Now, if you've read all of 1 Samuel, you might already know this. You might already understand why God left Saul, why God allowed Saul to die, why God chose David to be the next king. But again, this is being written hundreds and hundreds of years later to a different group of people. They didn't just live through this event. And so the author of Chronicles is laying it out to try and teach the people, hey, you can go fight your battles your own way. You can rely on your own wisdom. You can just go and do it on your own, and it's not going to end well for you. It's going to end just like Saul. Poorly. It's going to mess your life up. Or you can follow after God, and even though other people might hate you, God will direct your path. God will set you on the way that he knows is right. So the author's putting some notes in there for the reader. All right, then we get into chapter 11. We're going to start to skip around a little. There's this weird period of time right after Saul dies where like 5 years go by, and there's 2 different kings in 2 different parts of the country. The northern parts all take on this guy who's like the son of Saul, Ishbosheth, and they make him their king. And down in the south, Judah, Simeon, they know David. They know David really well. They love David. David's their favorite guy. And so they make David king. So for 5 years, you've got 2 separate kings. And then towards the end of that 5-year period, kind of mixed in with the 5 years, there's a 2.5-year civil war that sort of occurs. Now, during the first 5 years, it wasn't like it was or wasn't civil war. It was sort of in between, where people on the fringes were fighting each other, individuals were fighting each other, but the 2 halves of the nation were in outright line up your troops warfare. It was just hatred and murder by soldiers. And then eventually in the last 2.5 years, it escalates into a full-on battle, line up the troops and fight. Like full-on, like thousands and thousands of guys die. And so that's like the final part of the 7 years. First Chronicles just skips it. They just skip it. At the end of the 7 years, David's in Hebron and he gets crowned. That's where Chronicles picks up. So you go down to chapter 11, look at verse 1. Then all Israel gathered before David at Hebron and told him, we are your own flesh and blood. In the past, even when Saul was king, you were the only one who really led the forces of Israel. And the Lord your God told you, you will be the shepherd of my people, Israel. You will be the leader of my people, Israel. So there at Hebron, David made a covenant before the Lord with all the elders of Israel, and they anointed him king of Israel, just as the Lord had promised through Samuel. And that's all true. However, between the end of chapter 10 and the beginning of chapter 11 is 7 years missing from the timeline that you do get if you go back into 2 Samuel chapter 2. However, it's just kind of nasty, backbiting warfare. It's not for good reason. It's not some just, moral-based war where we have to fight these evil people. It is literally just brothers wrestling on the ground, but with swords and shields and thousands of guys.
Normal.
Totally normal, right?
Totally normal.
Totally normal.
Totally normal.
It's just an average Thursday.
Well, wrestling.
Yeah, right. So that's it. It's not pretty. And so again, the authors of First Chronicles, they're writing with a purpose. They want to teach the nation of Israel in 450 BC some lessons from Israel's past. And a giant civil war wasn't really on their list of things they want to teach everyone. They don't want them to be like that. They don't want them to think about the division. They want them to think about unity. They want them to think about, working as a team, rebuilding their nation, because they've just come out of slavery. They've just come out of Babylon. They don't have anything set up. There's no infrastructure. There's no government. And they don't want them thinking, oh yeah, remember how the South and the North used to fight? We should do that again. Or yeah, you guys killed my ancestors. They don't want them to think about that. They want them to press forward in unity and rebuild the nation as one big team. So they skip it. They're like, yeah, David sat down and got crowned. Eventually, yeah, that did happen. All right, then we get into verses 4 through 9. Then David and all Israel went to Jerusalem, or Jebus, as it used to be called, where the Jebusites, the original inhabitants of the land, were living. The people of Jebus taunted David, saying, you'll never get in here. This is a very high-walled city. There's like massive walls all the way around. But David captured the fortress of Zion, which is now called the city of David. David had said to his troops, whoever is first to attack the Jebusites will become the commander of my army. So everyone's kind of scared. There's giant fat walls. How do you even do it? How do you even run up and like plunge your sword into some guy when they're behind like this 18-foot wall? Like,
Just jump over it.
Just jump over. Just jump in. Just like hurdle. Like track and field. You got this. Yeah. So David doesn't know how, but he just makes the offer. Guys, first one to land a blow is going to be commander. You get to be in charge. You figure it out. It's called crowdsourcing. You don't give specific orders. You just throw out the reward and you say, whoever figures it out gets this. We could do a game show like that. It'd be hysterical. We go out there and like put a flagpole outside, put like $100 bill at the top of the flagpole, and she'd be like, "Go for it!" And there's like no rules. Some of you were like climbing the fence in a neighbor's yard, getting like pool cleaning sticks, and some of you were like throwing balls at it, and one of you's got like a disc you're throwing, and someone's at the bottom like trying to hack it down with an axe, trying to knock the flagpole down, and like you just everyone go. Everyone just try whatever you want to try. Whoever gets it first wins. That's basically David's solution. Giant walled city, bunch of super soldiers. Have fun, guys. I don't know what you're gonna do. Yeah, Alan.
So, when you were like describing the pool thing,
Yeah.
it reminds me of that one scene in Captain America.
Yeah, just like that. All right, so Joab, the son of David's sister Zeruiah, that's an interesting name, was first to attack. So he became the commander of David's armies. The other thing this does is it gets rid of the fear factor. Does that make sense? The hardest part is starting when the enemy's well defended. It's the hardest part. Just getting up the courage to plunge into battle. Once the battle gets going, once the gate cracks open, it's a lot easier. And so by throwing out that reward, it got everyone to race instead of everyone standing back going, "Who's going to be first?" Everyone races. David made the fortress his home, and that is why it is called the City of David. He extended the city from the supporting terraces to the surrounding area, while Joab rebuilt the rest of Jerusalem. And David became more and more powerful because the Lord of Heaven's armies was with him. Now previously, before David, there was this guy named Saul. He was king. Saul didn't build a bunch of infrastructure and roads and palaces and a capital city. Saul was content to just kind of live where he lived. And so his capital was just his hometown, just the place where he grew up. It was a little village. That was the capital of the country for years. And he didn't really do anything super duper special there. So when David becomes king, he decides, we need a proper capital. We need a place that's well defended. We need a place to retreat to when everything else is crumbling, when the enemy has the better of us. And so he goes and he looks for the best fortress he can find, and he finds Jebus, and he's like, "I'm taking Jebus." And everyone's like, that's kind of dumb. Like, you can't just walk up and take the most well-defended city. That's not how it works, David. And he's like, yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. And then this is what we find archaeologically. It's absolutely true. Jerusalem was once a walled city that was not very large, and it grew outside of its walls. And it wasn't for generations until they put the walls around anew and encapsulated that new growth of the city. And so when you look at Jerusalem, as you dig down through the layers, that's what you find, is you find older walls that are much smaller in circumference, and then slightly newer walls that are much bigger, and they kind of blossom off of it, almost like a flower petal off that center you would first draw. You guys know how to draw flowers when you're a kid, right? You draw like a little circle. You go like this, and you go like this.
Yeah.
That's basically how their city walls look if you look from the sky. It like starts out, you got this weird lumpy bean shape, and then eventually you get this nice big circle that goes around that, and then you've got like other walls that blossom off of that and come back to the main hub. And eventually that's where the temple gets built, is right off the edge of the main original fortress walls. So, David captures the city, it gets named the City of David, becomes the capital of the nation, and it's been the capital ever since. We are talking about 3,000 years ago. And ever since, for 3,000 years, one capital in that part of the world. That's pretty wild. Think about how old our country is. We had to invent a capital too. I don't know if you guys remember that part in your American history. At some point, every state had its own capital, and there was no federal. There was no big capital where everyone thought of as the capital. Every state just had their own. And eventually we just said, yeah, we'll put it there. We just picked a spot, made it the capital.
Don't we pick Washington?
Well, not the state, Washington, D.C. There's lots of things named after that dude named Washington. They're not all the same place.
Washington.
It's tricky. Yeah. Yeah. If you look at a big map of the country, Washington, the state, and Washington, D.C. are not even close. They're actually very far apart.
They're on the opposite.
Think of it like this. You could drive in a few hours to Washington, the state. You'd probably have to get on a plane to go to D.C.
Road
Does that make sense? They're very different. Yeah.
So does Israel still do kings, or did they move on to presidents?
Yeah, they don't do kings right now. And it's slightly political and it's slightly religious. The idea of a king to Israel is sacred because, remember their theology. Their theology is the Messiah is coming. Jesus was not that Messiah.
Right.
That's their theology. So when the next king sits on the throne, they want it to be the Messiah. They don't want an average king. They don't want another normal human king. They don't want that. So they're putting in presidents, they're putting in leaders that are not the king. Because they want the king. That's what they're hoping for. So it makes sense that they've shifted their government to not be a monarchy, because they're waiting for the perfect monarch. Yeah.
Is there a single place nowadays that actually use kings and kings and queens?
Oh yeah, here we got places with kings.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, famously, Great Britain still has kings and queens.
Well, I mean other queens.
Other than Great Britain? Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know them all off the top of my head, but I've heard of other kings in modern times. Lots of princes.
Queen died. I
Tons
didn't
of
know that
princes.
was dead.
All right. Okay, so now we jump off into another little fun part of history, and this is meant to encourage the men of Israel in 450 BC to be like the men of Israel in 1000 BC. This is meant to fighting people. That's right. Because remember, they've just come out of slavery, where if you stood up and fought, you died. Like fast. Babylonians would just wipe their hands.
I'd like
you're dead.
to say.
You're just dead. So when they get back to their nation, there's a lot of people in the area around them that don't want them to rebuild. And the authors of First Chronicles want them to be courageous. They want them to stand up for their nation. They want them to learn to fight, because currently that's not a skill they've all practiced. Very, very few of them have practiced that skill. And so he wants them to really get the bug. Catch that desire of, I need to be strong, I need to be prepared, I need to know how to defend. He wants them to do that. So he's about to regale you with some of the great men of Israel's past. And he gives some names, he gives some stories. So verses 10 and 11, these are the leaders of David's mighty warriors. Together with all Israel, they decided to make David their king, just as the Lord had promised concerning Israel. Here's the record of David's mightiest warriors. The first was Jashobim.
What?
The Hackmanite. Just makes you imagine him with an axe. He runs through the battlefield and just takes you off at the ankles. Try fighting me without feet. Who was leader of the three, the mightiest warriors among David's men. He once used his spear to kill 300 enemy warriors in a single battle. So the Hackmanite thing is just a joke. He actually fought with a spear. I have a hard time really getting my brain around killing 300 guys in a battle, okay?
It's possible.
Let me throw it out there for you, okay? I've done a lot of different work in my life, and one of the jobs I've done is putting out cable. Like crawling through ceilings, doing it on a new house as it's being built, and you're running through the ceiling, crawling through the attic, working inside the walls. And you guys might have seen people do this when they're building a house. So they run cable down to a little box, poke it out, and then they run it up to the top, and you go with a staple gun, right? Okay. My staples come in a box of 300. It's hard to run out of staples. 300 is a big number, and I can go ka-chunk in 2 seconds. It's so easy. But just working up and preparing for the ka-chunk, 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 it puts it into perspective for me. Time management wise, how the heck do you get through 300 guys in a day? How do you do it? Video games don't give you a real taste for this.
No.
Because in video games, if you're playing God of War, one of those where it's all melee, you have to actually run around and find the guys. It takes you 3.5 seconds to run to the next guy, and then it takes you 5, maybe 8 seconds to swing your weapon, and they're dead on the ground. Okay, real warfare doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I know.
In real warfare, you're not 1,800 times stronger than the guy across from you. Right? You're not just going to swing your weapon and go straight through their body cavity like they're made of paper or something. You actually have to face off with someone, and they're going to try and defend themselves with their life. So, the fact that you can get 300 enemies down in a day is just mind-boggling when you start to think about a real person with no machine guns involved. That is just nuts.
Yeah.
But spears were high-tech back then. I don't know if you guys realize the rate of technological advancements, but spears were legit high-tech, and they took a lot of skill. Because essentially what you have is a weapon that's deadly at one end and completely vulnerable in the middle. But the deadly end can get really far from you, and so you can put the deadly bit next to the other guy while he still can't reach you with a sword.
But he could break your weapon.
He can break your weapon, so it takes skill. You have an advantage, but it requires skill to not lose the advantage. Does that make sense? So this is not a testament to like just some guy's brute strength. Yeah, he could break through rocks with his fists. Like, no. This is a skill statement that you could keep going with the same spear and keep getting people with it, and no one takes your spear out. No one just like jumps up and lands on the pole and goes snap. Ha ha! Like it doesn't occur. That's skill. And so this guy keeps going for one battle and takes out 300 guys with his spear. That's mad skill. Like, that's just nuts. So he was tops. That's Jashobin. Next in rank among the three was Eleazar, son of Dodai, a descendant of I don't think they had Hakas back then, but it's close. He was with David when the Philistines gathered for the battle at Pasdamim, and that's an internet joke about noodles, in case you're wondering. Pasdamim. Yeah. And attacked the Israelites in a field full of barley. The Israelite army fled, but Eleazar and David held their ground in the middle of the field and beat back the Philistines. The Lord saved them by giving them a great victory. I don't know if you can imagine like the Hollywood movie, but it's already perfect. Like when they did Jurassic Park, they had the raptors going through the field of grass. I think it was number 2 or 3, and then they used that again in like one of the Jurassic World ones where they're going through like the tall field of grass and you can't quite see them. It's very cinematic. What you do is you zoom in on the people who are surrounded by the grass, and they're freaked out, and they can't see anything. They just hear stuff. And then you do the helicopter shot, the drone shot. And you look down, and you see like all the enemies coming towards them, pressing through the grass. And that's essentially what's going on here. It's 2 guys versus an army. But you can't fight them fairly, like an army should be able to just flatten 2 guys, because you can't see them. Does that make sense? There's all this barley in your way. So you hear the fighting, but you don't know if 3 feet in front of you is your friend or your enemy.
Oh, so he probably took themselves?
So you can't like keep just swinging your sword, just charge and have the whole army flatten them, because you don't actually know where they are. There's all this barley in the way. And so you just got David and his buddy. I imagine you fight back to back, so no one can sneak up on you, and the whole army just keeps coming. Keeps filtering towards you through the barley grass, and it's just the David and, what is his name again? Eleazar. David and Eleazar the blender. David and Eleazar just standing in the field of barley, just mowing guys down. And eventually the army starts to realize, we're still charging and we're still dying and we're not making any headway here. And we just hear screams and death out in front of us. Maybe we should go back. So 2 guys, Eleazar and David, they hold off the entire army. Then we get to verse 15. Remember, we're working through the 3. These are David's strongest dudes. Once when David was at the rock near the cave of Adullam, the Philistine army was camped in the valley of Rephaim. And the 3 who were among the 30, an elite group of David's fighting men, went down to meet him there. David was staying at the stronghold at this time. This is like a famous secret hideout for them. And a Philistine detachment had occupied the town of Bethlehem. What's Bethlehem?
Where Jesus was born?
Also where David was born. This is David's childhood hometown, okay? Now, he's an adult at this point in the story. He's moved on. He's actually on the run from Saul, because Saul, his own king, wants him dead. But he hears while he's on the run. He hears while he's hiding out. My hometown's under attack. So what does he do? Well, he stays in hiding, actually, but he makes a comment. Verse 17. David remarked longingly to his men, "Oh, how I would love some of that good water from the well by the gate in Bethlehem." So the 3 broke through the Philistine lines, drew some water from the well by the gate in Bethlehem, and brought it back to David, but David refused to drink it. You gotta picture this for a moment, okay? There is like 300 to 600 guys, because he grows from 300 in his army to 600 in his army while he's hiding out. So I don't know where in the timeline this is. But, somewhere between 300 and 600 guys, they're all just hanging out, hiding near the stronghold, some of them in caves and stuff. They're on the run from the law. And David's just remarking, man, Bethlehem's under attack. That stinks. I love Bethlehem. I miss it. Remember that well out front? Just had like the best water. And while he's just telling the story, because there's like hundreds of guys around, 3 of the guys are just like, bro, wanna go get some of that water for him? So 3 guys just like sneak out of the hideout. They go on down to Bethlehem. There's the whole Philistine army. Thousands and thousands of troops. 3 guys just running there. Swords flailing everywhere, spears bouncing up and down. All the Philistines are like, what the heck is this? It's like the army of 3. Just charge on in there. Now, the well isn't in the middle of town. That's lucky. It's out on the edge. So they break through the front line, go to the well, and I'm betting there's like 2 guys who are still sitting there fighting Philistines. And there's one guy just just pulling up the bucket as fast as he can. I don't know what they brought to carry the water. It's like a wineskin or like a clay pot or I don't know what they have. But now this guy is like you guys played video games before. You know, like the guy with the flag can't fight, right? Like that's who this guy is now. He's got the water. He can't fight properly anymore. Maybe, I don't know, like sword and clay pot. That seems dangerous. So he's got the water. Now he just has to run back. And the other two guys are like fighting Philistines as they get out of there. And they make it back.
Possible he could.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. It could have been a wineskin.
He could just
throw the wineskin over your back like a backpack, keep fighting.
He could just be bouncing out his head.
Oh, dude. That would be next level. That's like cartoon status right there. Okay, so this is the scene. They get back. David, we got some of the Bethlehem water, man. And David's like, I can't drink this.
What?
I would love to know if he like even waited to find out if any of them died. How does he know that like it wasn't 4 who went and 3 came back? You know what I mean? Like I don't know if he even knows that yet. But he just dumps the water out. And here's why. Here's what he says. God forbid that I should drink this, he exclaimed. This water is so precious as the blood of these men who risked their lives to bring it to me. So David did not drink it. These are the examples of the exploits of the 3. So he pours it on the ground because he says it's as important as your blood in your veins. Thank you, the 3. And in my mind, that's like such a backwards picture. If you bent over backwards, you risked your life to get me something, I would cherish it. He's saying, drinking this would sully it. Like, putting this water inside of me would lower the status of this water. I cannot do it. You guys have made this water too cool for me to drink. It's pretty cool. All right, so David has the 3, but he also has another group of elite fighting men called the 30. Now, part of this might be that the 3 are just beasts beyond beasts, and like they are just redonkulous. Could be the 30 are weaker, but it also could be tactics. Some people are not as good at fighting in a large group. They're much better at soloing it. And so maybe the 3 are just better at that small formation, I've only got 2 guys to think about type of warfare. And maybe the 30 are better at that, you know, and everyone like forms up and it's like, okay, flatline, and like everyone forms up and they're better at that style of warfare. I don't know. Maybe they're weaker, maybe they just have different tactics. But here's what the deal with the 30 is. Abishai, the brother of Joab, was the leader of the 30. He once used his spear to kill 300 enemy warriors in a single battle. So you got the leader of the 3, he's done it. Leader of the 30, he's done it. They both managed to get 300 in a single battle. You know that scene in Lord of the Rings where like Gimli and Legolas are trying to keep count? Yeah. That's actually apparently real. Ancient soldiers did that. They're fighting their battle, and up until the moment they die, or the battle's over, they're counting. Stab, 24! Stab, 25! Like, that's bonkers. Can you imagine being on the battlefield, you're like kind of new, and you're like 3 ranks back, and you hear some enemy soldier over there? Clang, clang, slash, slash, 27! 28! He's just shouting out numbers, you're like, oh no! That's gotta be freaky, especially when you meet one of these guys. And he's out there with a spear from like 5 feet away, just taking guys out. And he's shouting out, 199! 200! And you're like, oh my gosh, I have to be far away now. You guys seen an outhouse? I'll be gone in a minute. I promise I'll be right back. Right back. Yeah, my goodness, 300 enemies in one single battle. It was such feats, it was by such feats that they became as famous as the 3. Abishai was the most famous of the 30 and was their commander, though he was not one of the 3. There was also Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, a valiant warrior from Kabzeel. Kabzeel is where you're really excited about Ubers. He did many heroic deeds, which included killing 2 champions of Moab. Another time, on a snowy day, he chased a lion down into a pit and killed it. Once, armed only with a club, he killed an Egyptian warrior who was 7.5 feet tall and who was armed with a spear as thick as a weaver's beam. Benaiah wrenched the spear from the Egyptian's hand and killed him with it. I want you to think about this for a second. The whole point of a spear is that you can't get close to the guy. Right? That's the whole point of the spear. You can't get close to me. I can keep putting the pointy bit out in front of me, and you can't get close. This 7.5 foot dude must have had such a wingspan. This is NBA status right here, okay? Such a wingspan. He's got these giant arms. He's got this giant weaver's beam of a spear. And Benaiah just has the speed to duck and dive around that spear and get right up in the guy's grill, such that he can grab the spear where it's safe, and then he had the strength to just rip it out of the guy's hands. So he's got the strength and the speed to just outmatch an NBA player just head on. And then when he's done, he's like, oh man, this is like a weaver's beam. If you're not clear about a weaver's beam, it's a very large piece of wood. Not typically what you make a spear out of. We're talking like what you build porches with, you know? That kind of beam. So he takes this and he gets it out of his hands and just goes, stab. And now the 7.5-foot Egyptian guy has his own spear sticking out of him. Deeds like these made Benaiah as famous as the 3 mightiest warriors. He was more honored than the other members of the 30, though he was not one of the 3. And David made him captain of his bodyguard. Okay, now I move on to some more name-heavy sections, a bit like chapters 2 through 9. Yes?
Why didn't they list the third of the
I know! It kills me to this. I just can't stand it. It so bothers me.
It seems like these guys are more famous than the 3, because the 3 don't even all get named.
I think the thing with the 3 was the earliness with which they joined David and like how far back their stories go. I think they just have more stories by number. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're like the original crew. They're the OG. And then you've got the 30 that kind of grows up after that. And some of them still manage to do ridiculous things. But again, they tend to fight in these clusters, but the 3 then join the 30 sometimes. So sometimes when the 30 go out to battle, the 3 are with them. But I think the stories of the 3 just go back further. So that's my running thinking on this. It's not super duper clear why they're all split up the way they're split up. Yeah.
I think the reason why they didn't name the third one, they just didn't know his name.
You forgot his name. It's entirely possible. The title of the 3 was more famous than the guy. Makes sense? All right, so here's a bunch more of the warriors. He lists out 44 of them, because remember, he has hundreds. He doesn't just have the 3 and the 30. He's got hundreds of warriors. So he lists out a bunch more. And then we go to the next section, and it says in chapter 12 now, following men joined David at Ziklag. Now, Ziklag is this town that's outside Israel. And it's sort of the dark days for David, if you remember the story. He ran from Israel, even though God had not told him to run from Israel. And he hides among the Philistines. He only hides from Israel. Get this, like, he's not hiding from the Philistines. He goes to the Philistines and he begs for a town of his own. And the Philistines give it to him. They let him stay. They treat him as a defector, someone who leaves Israel behind and is now going to fight for the Philistines. So he gets his own town in Ziklag. This is, as far as we can tell, pretty much against God's will. While he's there, he's already got his hundreds of guys at this point, 600 guys. Even more people join him. Some of them were archers, some of them were sling throwers, some of them could sling with left or right hand. They've got all these different people who join up. Some of them join up and are so good they actually really improve their fighting force. Then we get to another point in the same story. Different point, same story. He's out hiding in the stronghold, and these guys join him. And then we keep going, and we're going to actually read this part. We'll see. He just picks up guys everywhere he goes. There's just constantly soldiers joining his fight because they see how expert and how next level his forces are, and they see how honest and true he is. They don't want to join Saul's army, or if they've already joined, they don't want to stay in Saul's army. Saul is this corrupt, demon-possessed, depressed, wild, crazy, paranoid leader. And as soon as you've been in the army for any length of time with Saul, you finally see who Saul is and you go, ugh, I don't want to fight for this guy. I don't want to be in his ranks. It's awful. Who would want to serve him? And so they do what they can to find some other work. What do? They join David. So verses 16 through 18 say this. This is chapter 12 now, by the way. Others from Benjamin and Judah came to David at the stronghold. David went out to meet them. And if you have come in peace to help me, we are friends. But if you have come to betray me to my enemies when I am innocent, may the God of our ancestors see it and punish you. And then the Spirit came upon Amasai, the leader of the 30, and he said, we are yours, David. We are on your side, son of Jesse. Peace and prosperity be with you, and success to all who help you, for your God is the one who helps you. It was something about David that could be seen based on his life choices. Now, at that point, he's at the stronghold. This is before he goes off to Ziklag. It's before he makes those big mistakes. it was easy enough to just meet David. You could tell he was fighting for God. You could tell he was doing God's will. And so for any man who worshiped God, for any man who said, I want to do the Lord's will, if they see a commander who's worth following, who is also following God, it's irresistible. They couldn't stand by and do anything else. They needed to go join up with David. It was all they could manage. They wanted to be on God's side. So David let them join him, and he made them officers over his troops. Keep going in 12, we got 19 through 22. Some men from Manasseh defected from the Israelite army and joined David when he set out with the Philistines to fight against Saul. But as it turned out, the Philistine rulers refused to let David and his men go with them, and after much discussion, they sent them back. For they said, it will cost us our heads if David switches loyalties to Saul and turns against us. So David was actually going to fight with the Philistine army, for the Philistine army, against his own countrymen. But the Philistines changed their minds at the last minute. Verse 20. Here's a list of the men from Manasseh who defected to David as he was returning to Ziklag. Adnah, Jozabad, Jediel, Michael, or I guess it's just Michael, sorry. Jozabad, Elihu, Zilithai, or Tai, I'm not sure. Each commanded 1,000 troops from the tribe of Manasseh. They helped David chase down bands of raiders, for they were all brave and able warriors who became commanders in his army. Day after day, more men joined David until he had a great army like the army of God. This just keeps going through those 5 intervening years, where there's 2 separate governments in Israel, but open warfare hasn't started yet. People just keep coming down from the north to join David in the south. And they don't come alone. Whole commanders with their troops would come down and join David. So I've tallied up the whole section, because there's a lot of different groups at different points in time that come and join David. And some of them are great in number, some are a few in number, so I added it all up. It's 337,100 men come down and join David over the years. Yeah, he started out with 300 guys. And like that original 300, they were outcasts. They were like people who owed debt and couldn't pay it. They were people who were hated by their town. And they're like, I'm out of here. Okay, that's the original 300. But then as David leads them in battle, as David leads them to do things for God that are good, then the godly men of the nation just start flocking to David for good reasons. So the original seed of the army is all these people running from what they didn't want to be part of. And eventually it's people who are running to something they do want to be part of. And then eventually you've got this, it's 1/3 guys. It's pretty insane. All right, so that takes us down to verse 37. Keep going, verse 38. I already turned my page. All these men came in battle array to Hebron with the single purpose of making David the king over all Israel. In fact, everyone in Israel agreed that David should be their king. They feasted and drank with David for 3 days, for preparations had been made from as far away as Issachar, Zebulun, and Naphtali. They brought food on donkeys, camels, mules, and oxen, vast supplies of flour, fig cakes, clusters of raisins, wine, olive oil, cattle, sheep, and goats were brought to the celebration. There was great joy throughout the land of Israel. All right, now that list of food might sound a little funny to us, but this is their classic party food. Like if they were having a birthday party or it was a holiday or whatever, these are the foods they'd bring. Okay?
They bring cows.
Well, the animals too, yeah, because they love barbecue. But check out the list of foods. Flour, you got to be able to bake. Fig cakes, they love fig cakes. Clusters of raisins. That was just considered like candy back then. You take all your. Hi, Dylan. We're in church right now. Can you call back later?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Bye, Dylan.
All right, cool.
Love you.
Why don't
So-
you have it in silent?
I don't know who Dylan is.
Hi, Dylan.
You guys should say hi. It's just polite. Clustered raisins, they thought of that like candy. That was just good stuff. Wine, olive oil, cattle, sheep, and goats. So you take the oil, you take the flour, you can make whatever you want to make. You can make bread, you can make cakes, you can make anything. You take the fig cakes because they're moist, they keep well, they don't like become crusty, old, and dry like tomorrow. They're nice tomorrow and they're nice the next day and they're nice the next day. Having all that fruit in the cake really keeps it soft and moist. So they've got all this party food and they just join up and it's just like a massive barbecue. There's just barbecue everywhere. Can you imagine the smell? just 300 some odd thousand people all barbecuing at once.
Or you just smell the
amazing.
dead animals.
Dude, barbecue doesn't smell like dead animals though.
No, no,
Do you
no.
understand the difference?
No.
Like
no.
roadkill, yeah, that's nasty. Hate that smell. Roll up the window.
No.
What's wrong with
No,
you?
'cause if you
Okay,
bring-
barbecue. I just sit there by the barbecue, just take it in, just suck in all that good smell. It's so good, right? It's a huge difference.
Because you can bring a cow, you have to kill it to
Yes.
barbecue it.
Yes.
Then if the cow is dead, then you can smell
Hold on,
that dead
Carter,
Yeah, for like
here's the thing.
like 10 minutes until it hits the barbecue,
Yeah.
Oh,
and this
yeah.
smells like barbecue. What do you do? Like kill the
It's
cow
like
and then just
when it
forget?
starts stinking.
Whoopsie!
It's like a
Left the cow lying on the ground. That's not realistic, I don't think. That'd be weird. Also, if it happened, I mean, who's to say? We got like 1/3 of a million people here. You're gonna smell it, and then you're gonna fix your steak, because that's nasty. Don't do that. All right, so they crown David. They throw a giant party, and the point of all this recounting of the men was twofold. Number one, the courageous deeds. Number one, you've got all these brave guys doing ridiculous off-the-hook stuff to defeat the enemy. And this is what they want to inspire the people in 450 BC to do, is become men of valor. Become men of courage and bravery that are willing to stand up and defend the nation. To go out there and save their people from their enemies. Okay? Be courageous. Now, the only way to be courageous is it battle? No. The only way to be courageous is it going and slaying the enemy? No. But this is what was in their history that they could point to easily and say, look, we had men of courage. And battle was a thing that was going to be occurring in their nation in 450 BC. They were trying to rebuild the capital city, and they were going to start rebuilding their villages and towns after that. And the people around Israel knew if we let Israel regrow into a nation again, we're going to have to actually make treaties with them, be nice to them, and give them back land. And if we just kill them now, then they don't get anything and we get all of it. So there was a real contest going on in real time to survive. The nations around them wanted them dead. So you do need some courageous fighters. The other half of this, though, is that building in a war zone is stupid scary. Like, being a construction worker, it's dangerous, okay? More people die as a roofer every year than as a cop every year. It's a dangerous business to be in, just building stuff. It's dangerous, okay? But it's a little more dangerous if there's people trying to kill you at the same time. Just a little, a little bit more deadly. To have actual wartime soldiery guys coming at you while you're swinging the hammer and pounding the nails. Just try roofing with arrows coming over the wall. That's just a little bit.
I mean, the arrows reinforce.
So, if you're going to go out there and build the city again, if you're going to go out there and build the walls again, even if you're not going to be a soldier, you still have to have courage. Because it's not fun to be the tallest guy in the city putting on a roof when there's arrows flying into the city.
What do you mean?
That is a bad place to be. Okay, you do not want to be that guy. It takes courage. And the city's never going to get done if every single guy says, oh, yeah, sorry, I don't really build stuff. I'm like a baker. I'm just going to go over here, shut the door. I'm just going to do my thing with the oven. They can't all do those jobs. Some of them have to actually sign up to go build a wall while people shoot at you. Some of them have to actually go sign up to build a temple while, roving bands of raiders are coming through town. So, lesson number one, we need some courageous people who are willing to stand up, who are willing to do dangerous, dangerous things. But lesson number two, the battle isn't yours. The battle isn't yours. David attracted these hundreds and thousands of soldiers to come and join his ranks because he fought for God. And he only fought where and when God wanted him to. Most of the time, we do have some mistakes on record, but by and large, that was his record. He fought where and when God wanted him to, and people saw that and they flocked to him. And when David went out into battle, he would ask God if he would win the battle before he went. And when God would answer with a yes, he'd just go walking into that battle, head held high, nothing's going to take us out. God told me we're going to win. And his troops saw that, and they were so encouraged by that. It changed how they fought. Other armies saw it, and they trembled. To see someone walking onto the battlefield completely assured, I'm going to win. Completely confident I can't lose. And the reason was it was God's battle, not David's battle. This changed the fighting dynamic. When you go into a fight and you think it's all on you, if you try hard enough, you'll win, and if you don't try hard enough, you'll lose. If you're better than them, you'll win, and if you're not better than them, you'll lose. Then there's a fear that's always in the back of your mind. No matter how much courage you have, there's always a fear you're going to lose. You fight different. And David, a lot of the time, got to go into battle without that fear. You have to walk into that battle knowing, I'm fighting on the Lord's side, the Lord's promised me the outcome. This is the outcome I'm going to get. Hey guys, hands to yourself. I know it was in jest, but like, it's distracting. So this is the lesson for you guys. If you go into a battle that you take on yourself, you haven't talked to God, you haven't squared it with Him, you're not doing it because He told you to, then yeah, it's all on you. Good luck. You might win.
Probably not.
I hope you live. But if you do it that way, you do it Saul's way.
Really?
You do it Saul's way. And Saul, hey, here's the thing. Saul won some battles without God. He did. But it was a stressful, barely made it kind of triumph. It was a lost a ton of guys kind of triumph. It was a, I did it, but I sinned in the process. I had to fight dirty to win kind of triumph. So when we fight that way, we fight Saul's way. And David, he fought a completely different way. So here's a verse I'm pulling from way later, but it really like puts this into perspective. This is from 2 Chronicles, way past David by the time this gets written. But I think it still has merit. He said, "Listen, all you people of Judah and Jerusalem." So that's the area and the capital city. That's what he's talking about. Judah's the area, Jerusalem's the capital city. "Listen, King Jehoshaphat." This is like way down the line. Eventually, this descendant of a descendant of a descendant is sitting on the throne. This is what the Lord says. "Do not be afraid. Don't be discouraged by this mighty army, for the battle is not yours, but God's." And this is always the case in Israel's history. You can go back to the beginning of Israel, you can go to the end of Israel. If God says, "I want you to win this battle, just step up and fight," it does not matter what the odds are. You can have two guys standing against an army, and it's fine. If God's there with those two guys, it's fine. We actually have multiple instances of that. The first king, Saul, his son, one time, he sees the whole army's kind of shaken. They're all sort of afraid. There's actually guys like melting away into the bushes. You know that joke I made earlier? I gotta use the bathroom. And then they don't come back. That actually was happening. They're sitting there looking at the army down in the valley that they're about to go have to fight. Or I guess it's not in the valley, it's over the valley. So yeah, there's like a valley between them. They're looking at the army and they're so freaking scared. They're just like completely driven mad by how many guys they have to fight and how few they have to fight with, that they start doing that thing. Like, I'll be right back. And they go to the bushes and then they just keep going. And eventually the guys start to realize how few people there are. Saul's son Jonathan sees this and he says, the only way we're going to win this is if these guys take heart. Is if these guys have courage. So he talks to his armor bearer. This was like a classic job in the old days. You got some expert fighter, and then you got some guy who just carries extra weapons. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at like the making of the Lord of the Rings, but swords don't last that long when you're hitting them with swords. Think about that for a second. Metal sharp thing is pretty strong, right? You can hack a lot of stuff with a metal sharp thing, except for a metal sharp thing. You keep hacking a metal sharp thing against a metal sharp thing, you know what happens?
It breaks.
It breaks.
It
gets a gouge in it until they snap in half. So armor bearer was like a real job. My shield's busted through, my sword's busted through, my spear got lopped off. So the expert fighters would actually have a lackey who just follows them. And he's got this crazy pack that's just swords and spears and shields. And when the super duper fighter guy loses his sword or gets hacked in half, he's like, here you go. Takes out an extra one for him. And this was like a new form of warfare because now your expert fighter doesn't have to stop fighting. He doesn't get killed because his sword broke. It's not his fault. So Jonathan goes out there with his armor bearer, and the armor bearer's like scared out of his pants. He just can't take this. He's like, I don't think we should be doing this, man. It's us two against an army, and I barely fight. And Jonathan says, here's the test. We're gonna go up and get seen. We're gonna like climb the valley, let them see us. And if they say to us, and he uses this like a prophecy, if they say to us, like, stop where you are, then we'll go back home. We'll leave it all behind. If we go up, we poke our heads over the valley, and we say, hi guys. And they're like, hey, look at the two little pipsqueaks who came to fight. Come on up here. Come here. If they call us up to fight them, then we'll go. And we'll fight them. And so, they do it. He talks the armor bearer into it. They go, they climb down the valley, they climb up the valley, they poke their heads over the edge. A few of the lookout soldiers see him. The lookout soldiers are like, it's cute. Because Jonathan at this point is like 14 years old. He's still a kid, basically. They're like, it's cute. And he's like a little guy who came to fight us. He's adorable. They're like, come here. And Jonathan's like, all right, it's go time. And that's it. From that point on, Jonathan fights the army. And he keeps on fighting the army all by himself, with just his armor bearer reloading him every so often. Here you go, here's another spear, here's another shield, here's another sword. He keeps doing this until his dad finally takes notice. They're across an entire valley, and at some point they hear the clang, clang, ching, 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 just like happening across the valley. The king finally looks over and notices, like, guys, I think there's like a fight going on over there. And he does a head count, which is hard because like a lot of people defected. But when he hears that his son isn't accounted for, he trusts his son didn't run home. He trusts that the guy over there fighting the whole army all by himself at age 14 is my boy. And so he says, guys, we're going now because Jonathan is fighting alone the battle you should be fighting. So they all go in and reinforce Jonathan. And they win. There's like a few hundred guys left, and there's thousands and thousands of troops in the enemy army. And they win because Jonathan plunged in all alone. And the armor bearer was fine, and Jonathan was fine. They all made it home. And that day, none of his troops died in battle. Now that's not physically possible in normal warfare to send in some few hundred against thousands and thousands, and none of the hundreds of guys die. That's not possible. There's too many ways to just trip and fall on the ground, and then some guy comes and chops your head off while you tripped. There's too many ways to just get separated from the pack, and suddenly you're surrounded, and your force of reinforcements is way over there. Yeah.
What if, like, you said it wasn't physically possible, but like, what if it was like a Giga Chad army where they were just super strong?
Have you ever seen what's it called? Something Battle Simulator. It's on Steam. It's like a fighting game, but you don't actually control anything.
Oh yeah.
You just set up the battlefield.
Oh,
What is it?
Totally
accurate battle simulator.
Yeah.
So you can put down like, Spartans from Halo, you can put down Spartans from Sparta. You can put down Marines from today, you can put down Marines from World War II. You can put down tanks, you can put down war elephants with ballistas. Like, you can just put down any historical battle unit, but then you don't control them. You don't tell them, like, go over here, fight that way, get those
they
guys.
actually updated.
Did they add it so you can
Yes,
That's dumb. The whole point was that you just let them go.
you could play as one.
Oh, you play as one? Okay, that's
you
pretty
control
cool.
one.
All right, that's
It's funny.
But the point is, when you put in 300 modern-day Marines with 50 cals, and you surround them with thousands and thousands of, like, Roman soldiers with short swords, some of the Marines eventually die.
Well.
It doesn't matter if you have 300 gigachads against thousands and thousands. Eventually, some of those gigachads actually die.
I don't think the Giga Chad.
Eventually, they do.
I don't think.
Eventually, they do. Here's why. Okay, think of a circle. Think of all your 50 cals. How do you actually line up to not shoot each other? You can't all fire your 50 cals at the same time. You're going to shoot each other. So eventually, you've only got like 50 guys around the outside that can actually shoot out of your 300. It doesn't help you to have the 300. You might as well have had 50. Okay, then you've got all these guys coming at you. Okay, how many arc angles can one bullet hit? Like, one, right? You can't attack 20 guys when they're 50 yards off. You only attack one. It doesn't work, and we're not even in that era. We're in like swords and spears era. Like, it doesn't work.
Or spears are the most high tech.
Spears are the most high tech thing you have. Eventually, you get flaming arrows. That's like, woo.
Grabbing an arrow.
That's a major uplift because you can shoot a few into the town and the whole town lights on fire. It's pretty epic. They weren't even there yet, okay? They weren't even there yet. So no, when you put 300 guys out against thousands, the only reason the 300 don't lose even one is God. That's it. It doesn't work otherwise. It's God. God alone. When Gideon goes and fights with clay pots and torches and trumpets, that doesn't work because psychology, it works because of God. At some point, someone's going to realize, that's not a marauding force, that's my friend Joe. He sleeps in the tent next to me. Like, at some point, someone's going to wake up to this. The only reason the fear perpetuates the way it does in Gideon's story is because God was in it. God was driving that problem in their camp forward so that they killed each other. It's the only reason these situations work out like this. And this is the same way in our lives. We can find so many times in our life where we can point to something and go, oh, I know how to do that. I can handle that. I've done this before. I know this situation. I'm an expert at this.
And it just dies.
And it fails anyways. We think we've got it. We're like, yeah, I'm totally good at it. And it just fails. And sometimes we look back and go, why did that happen?
Because you eat.
Why does it happen that we put all our trust in ourselves and then we fail? Even though we felt so confident. We're human. We're not perfect. God's plan is, ours is not. So we need to put our trust in Him. It's the only way to really know that we're going to press on and we're going to have success. And the best part about it is, sometimes when we make those plans ourselves and we're oh so confident, we know exactly how it's going to go in our head, we just know this is how it's going to work, what we're driving for might not even be right. What we're aiming at might not even be right. So like, who cares if you succeed? What if you do? What if you succeed and you've gone the wrong way? I made it. I drove 300 miles even though I don't have a driver's license. Woo! Yeah, but you went the wrong way. You did the wrong thing. Who cares if you didn't crash the car? It was wrong to do it. But I didn't crash the car. Yeah, who cares? This is what it's like going off from God's plan. You can feel very successful sometimes when you don't fail. But if you were going the wrong way, who cares how far you got? The further you go the wrong way, the worse it is. So this is really the contrast between Saul and David. Saul kept on going the wrong way, and sometimes he had great success in going the wrong way. And then David, he was almost always going after God's way, going after God's own heart. And yeah, oftentimes he had success. Almost all the time he had success. And it sets up the nation, as we keep reading, we're going to keep reading his story and the history of Israel during his reign. The nation enters its golden era. It is more prosperous, more successful than ever before. And his son is handed such an amazing kingdom that his son is able to take it from a prosperous nation that wins its battles to a prosperous nation that doesn't even have to fight anymore. And that's a beautiful thing. When you don't even have to go to war because you're so powerful, that's beautiful.
It's called America.
Some of the time.
It's called America.
Some of the time, yeah. At our best moments. So, this is where they're headed. But this can be our personal life too. If we're really walking in lockstep with God, the battle is His, it's not ours. And we can take courage knowing that He's already named the outcome. Total victory. All right, let's pray. Lord, we thank You for Your word. We thank You for the examples we see in the life of David, in the lives of his men, to put their whole trust in You and to just know that the battle is Yours. They can trust that You're going to have the outcome handled. And that they just have to be faithful to fight the good fight, to do the work You've put in front of them. Help us, Lord, to have that same trust in You, that when we know the goal is Yours, when we know the battle is Yours, that we can just do the work, faithfully just showing up to do what You've handed us, and knowing that the outcome is going to be handled by You. We don't have to worry about that outcome. So thank You, God. We thank You that You've given us something so certain, like heaven, like Your grace, Your mercy and forgiveness, that we can look to that and just have that full assurance of Your victory over sin and over death, and we don't have to worry about that anymore. Lord, help us to take that same courage that comes from that assurance, that certainty, and just spread it out to all the other parts of our life where maybe we don't have that same assurance yet, maybe we don't have that same certainty yet, maybe we don't know exactly what Your plan is yet. Help us, God, to just seek You, to pray constantly, to ask for clarity in those areas, to figure out what Your will is, so that we can then rest in the knowledge that You're going to be in charge of the victory. You're going to be in charge of the outcome. Help us, Lord, to have that courage that comes from knowing You are in control. With our heads bowed, with our eyes closed, if you're here today and you don't have that courage yet, you don't have that certainty yet, maybe you don't even have the hope of salvation in heaven yet, the Bible says that you can. You can have total forgiveness. You can have a brand new life. You can have forgiveness of everything you've ever done wrong. Jesus wanted this for you so bad that He was willing to die to get it for you. He loves each and every one of you so much that his life was a price he willingly paid. He was willing to lay it down. The Bible says that if you put your faith in him, your trust in him, you believe in who he was who he is and what he did, that he wants to come into your life, forgive you of all wrong that you've ever done, and to give you a brand new life, one you get to walk through with him. So if you want to do that today, you want to trust in Jesus, put your faith fully into him, I would just ask you to raise up your hand, and I'll help you out with some words. You can talk to him. You can tell him that. You can ask him for that forgiveness. You can have a brand new life with him, one that lasts on into eternity. Anyone this morning want to do that, just raise up your hand and I'll pray with you. I see that hand. Right on. Anyone else? One is plenty, but I don't want to miss anybody. Is there anyone else this morning? All right, well, I'm going to say some words now. You just repeat them. Just say these things to Jesus. And if you mean them, that's what makes the difference. They're not magic words. They're not special. It really is just the faith that you have within you and you're putting it into him. So just repeat after me. Thank you, Jesus, for dying for me in my place. I have sinned. I've messed up. I've done wrong. Please forgive me. Wash it all away. Make me clean and pure like you. And fill me with your Holy Spirit. Use it to guide me, to show me how to live for you. And when I die, take me into your kingdom fully, so I can live with you in heaven forever. I pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Right on. If you guys prayed that for the first time, you might have been that one person who raised their hand. You might have been someone who just secretly prayed that for the first time. Totally cool either way. Talk to us. Pick a leader. Could be me. Could be Hannah. Could be Emily. Talk to us. Ask us any questions you might have. We might have a few for you. Like, do you have a Bible at home you can read? One that is in a translation you can understand. Yeah, we don't want you guys to leave with questions. We'd rather you ask them.
Wait, Daniel, make it fair, please.
What?
I mean, make it fair. Like,
Make it fair? Yeah. I'm not even going to look, bro. It's as fair as I can make it. I'm not even going to look. I have no idea who's on top, who's on bottom, who's on left, who's on right. I got nothing. Don't give me any hints. Don't give me any hints.
I just need my phone.
What the? What?
That was not my phone.
Get out of here. Alright.
I'm a win.
Wasn't it me? Did it won?
See, I told you the name tag would help.
The name tag did help. I have no idea who that was until I read the name tag.
Supposed to have like.
I did say if Alan wins, I get one.
Yeah, that's not how it works, Mike. You can't like claim someone else's prize.
Bet it.
No, we're both okay.
I mean, you're not 21.
No one took this phone.
Daniel cut the Hello, my name is Al.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Apache Daniel.
How's it going? Going good, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. Did you hear the news? People theories think about the
Mike is taller.
Yeah, he's a little.
Always taller.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I missed it. You're like gonna start the whole series over?
They're.
Addie.
I'm like, weird. Please don't.
And then the one that
don't.
got my knees.
The story's already made. Except for 5. Except for
Well, and they've got this.
I'm built like a glizzy.
Got like books and stuff.
I'm like,
yeah, and I'm like, no, you can't do that to us.
Oh my goodness, that's wild.
The only,
Guys, the stacks top out at 5. Don't go higher than 5.
the only games
They start to get a little tippy after that.
I'm like, the only games that are allowed to do that are Bethesda games.
Yeah.
Yeah, Skyrim. I'm specifically looking at you, Fallout and Skyrim.
She's like, we gotta do this every day. And then earlier, I'm like, hey, Lainey,
Oh my gosh.
make sure that it's done.
I've been wanting to play a Starfield for so long.
A Starfield? I know.
The intro.
It's been interesting. There's been performance problems on like almost every kind of video card.
Also, apparently it's themed. Apparently it's the same. It's in the same world as Skyrim.
Is it really?
Yeah.
What?
But like hundreds of years in the future.
Well, it must be thousands, I would imagine.
yeah,
It's like more advanced.
that would
It's
make
more advanced than now.
Yeah.
So that's insane.
Yeah. Plus. Yeah.
There's so many fun little exploits I've heard about so far. So in Starfield, when you're out in space and you like mess with some government or you make some pirates mad or whatever, they'll come shoot at you. And there are certain planets you just shouldn't go to when you're low level because like they'll just pick you apart in 5 seconds. Like there's literally hundreds of spaceships. They'll all fire in your position at once. You can't dodge. You're just gonna be dead.
There's two.
So someone figured out there's a hack. You go into the shipbuilder. You build your ship like a donut or like a giant L shape, and the AI is programmed to shoot at your center of mass. So if your ship is L shaped like this,
Oh no.
off center, then the center of mass is right here in dead air. There's nothing there.
Oh no.
So you just build a giant L shape, and when you go to fly, it looks hilarious because the camera is centered over like your cockpit, but it's not. It's like it's in the middle of nowhere. And your ship is like out in front of you and like off to one side of you, and so you're like flying your ship. Your engines are like back here off to one side, but like it doesn't care because it's not a physics simulator game. It's not based on physics. So like if your engines are off center, who cares? It still works.
It's a Bethesda game.
It's a Bethesda game, so who cares? So you're just like flying, and all the bullets are like, whoo, 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 whoo. They're just going straight through you. There's like nothing to hit. He's like, yep, I'm on a level 70 planet, and I'm a level 5, but no one can shoot me.
And then you're gonna get just like god loot and become like
You get crazy experience. One of the other things that was really funny is you go to space, like outside of planet, you're like floating around it, orbit, and you knock up the difficulty in the menu to very, very hard, and then you load the planet. You go down, get on the ground. As soon as you land on the planet, make sure it's full of like a lot of animals. You flip the difficulty back to very easy.
oh my god.
What happens is the damage buff you get when you fight people goes back up to the very easy damage buff, but just the number level on all the animals already going down. So all the animals will be like level 70, level whatever, crazy high level, but now the damage you do and the damage they do is reset back to very easy. So when you take them out, you get the XP number based on number of hits on what level. That's how the XP is calculated. Number of hits on what level.
So you're getting like
So you take like a wimpy gun too. If you take a wimpy gun that takes like, 18 shots per kill, then you're gonna end up with like